A better route. Chapter 91. Naruto stood in front of Gamamaru and tried to keep himself composed as the toad told him about the upcoming sage training and what he thought of all the training he'd recollecting over the past month or two. Well, Naruto-san, you've been training very hard. If you apply that same strategy to your attempts at sage mode, I think that you'll have no problems in mastering it. You're attempting it today, aren't you? Naruto was grinning madly. Hell yeah, I am. Is there specific place I have to train at, or can I just in the same location I was originally at? Gamamaru had actually thought about this already. The waterfall you were training at would be a fine place to continue training. There's a small altar there and it's one of the calmest places on the mountain, and you'll need to be completely at peace while you're proceeding through this. Naruto was now impatient at this point. Well, let's go. I'm not just gonna sit around and keep talking about it while the enemy is still at large. Pa looked at the boy and saw so much of his father and his sensei in the boy. He had the determination to never give up. You could very well see look of it in his eyes. It was a damn good thing too, because he was going to need it if he wanted to complete something this challenging. We're right behind you, Naruto boy. Kakashi couldn't help but notice the glares Manda kept sending him as he got prepared for his first attempt at sage mode, and at this point he finally had enough and demanded, "What in the hell is your problem?" Manda just scowled at him and answered with some annoyance in his voice, "How did you earn the right to become a sage before I did? You're nothing but a pathetic, little human who doesn't have the guts to achieve his goals no matter what the means may be." Kakashi just gave the snake a look that could be very well be recognized as a scowl even under his mask. "And you're just a overgrown snake who thinks that your goals are so important he should have the right to kill others to achieve it, when it clearly shows that your pride and arrogance is getting the better of you." Manda was pissed at this point and went to strike him. "Why, you insolent little..." Dokibi snapped at him when he sensed the oncoming attack. "Manda, you are to leave this place at once. You clearly show that you can't even simply be trusted enough to sit with us during a task that's as important as this." Manda hissed at the old sage and slithered away. Dokibi turned to Kakashi. "My apologies, he's been getting worse and worse since the passing of that disgusting fool Orochimaru. I may still have some issues with humans, but even I thought that Orochimaru was insane and sacrifices weren't necessary." Kakashi shrugged. "Hey, you can only control yourself, not your subordinates." Dokibi knew that the boy was right. "Too true, Kakashi, too true. I've made you a little something for the occasion. However, you can only have it if you complete your sage mode." Dokibi showed him a large liquor bottle. "I made a special batch that you can drink without having any problems occurring to your health. I'd like to have a drink with my fellow sage once this all finished." Kakashi took some pride in that, but he just bowed to Dokibi and said in calm and almost chipper tone, "It would be my honor, Lord Dokibi." Tsunade really couldn't think of a time she'd been prouder of her daughter than this moment. Mito was about to accomplish something even she'd never had the balls to do. Sage mode was something that barely any human on Earth could successfully use, let alone complete it. But now here stood her little girl all revved up and ready to go for it. It was really mind-blowing to her as to how far she'd come. Mito was getting herself ready to start her sage mode training and heard Tsunagu giggling happily, as if she was giddy little schoolgirl, to Time about finally getting a sage. "Oh, Mito's gonna be our saving grace and prove that the slugs are something that shouldn't be looked down upon. And that's not even mentioning." She rambled on while Time listened politely. Tsunagu was the most powerful slug in the world, but she still acted like a lady who just loved to talk. Tsunade decided to go over and join in on the conversation with Tsunagu. "So Lady Tsunagu, what do you think Mito's chances of completing sage mode are?" Tsunagu had absolute and complete confidence in her. "She's gonna complete it all right, that much I'm sure of. It might be a couple of days, but I have no doubt she won't fail." "Tsunade, you and Jiraiya raised a fine kunoichi." Tsunade glanced over shoulder toward her daughter and smiled. as the warm memories of her late husband started flooding back to her. Yes, we did. Mito finished warming up and decided to join the conversation. Are you guys almost ready for me to start? I really want to get this thing started. Sanagu couldn't say she blamed her. After all, she had anxious for this moment for weeks. We can start any time you like. You can begin at the top of that marble pillar whenever you're ready. Mito looked at it and smirked. Well, it's now or never. I won't fail. Sai wasn't sure he'd ever been in a situation this awkward in his entire life. Currently, Kabuto was standing right next to him with a look of agony on his face. It was clear he wanted nothing more than to be granted release from this world, but Danzo had taken special precautions to make certain that couldn't happen. The only real thing he could have done is bite his tongue and bleed out or something along those lines, but Danzo was too careful with that situation as well because he had medics near him at all times to avoid anything like that. He really didn't know if it was better to end the sense of feeling of being awkward by trying to start up a conversation with Kabuto or just remain still and sit there in silence. Oh hell, Kabuto looked so damn depressed he looked he would take anything, even a little chat, to make relieve some tension. So Kabuto, how are you doing? Kabuto just gave him a glare of, "Are you serious?" at him and muttered sarcastically, "I've been trying to escape from this hell hole for past month and Danzo is keeping me alive only to make it worse. So I'd say, I'm having the time of my life just being here." Sai ignored the sarcastic answer. "My apologies, I was simply trying to improve your state with a little conversation." Kabuto sighed, "Thank you for the concern, but I'm not really sure that by you starting a conversation can change my status at this point." Sai wasn't sure what to tell him. Both of them were in the same boat. Looks like he's got both of us under the edge of his sword, huh? Kabuto chuckled slightly. "I suppose he does." Sai looked around at all of the root members present in the room. It didn't look like any of them were paying much attention to what they were saying at the moment. "Kabuto, we can't let him get away with all of this." Kabuto hated Danzo more than almost anyone, but that didn't mean he have a chance to turn the tables on him as well. "Do you have some way to get to him without him killing us, or better yet, find out?" Sai noticed one of the root members had speaking amongst each other and taken notice that they were talking and leaned away from Kabuto. He did his best not to make it look like he was still communicating to Kabuto, but found other means. He suddenly started speaking through taps on the table. After all, he knew that while root members had knowledge that he was doing something, he knew that they had no idea what he was actually saying. To Kabuto he was saying, "There's nothing I can do, but I think that there may be something you can do." Kabuto took notice of this and identified it as Morse code. He responded by just recomposing himself and started his own set of taps. "You have my attention." Sai had carefully considering his options for some time. "If you could think of some way for us to get in contact with the Sound 5 and tell them what Danzo intends to do, I'm relatively certain that they'd come running to stop him." Kabuto was doing his best to pretend he was still working while tapping at the same time to Sai as well, and if they did come here, Kami knows it would be an all-out blood match between them and Root. That would certainly catch the attention of the Hokage and other council members, not to mention the Sandaime. Sai was glad he got the picture, and I've got something special in mind that would destroy those documents as well. Kabuto was more than interested at this point. "Pretend you're drawing and pay attention to me very carefully. I'm about to give you the best way I know of to get a hold of the Sound 5. Sai had to ask, "How come you didn't tell this to Danzo or the council?" Kabuto just gave him a quick look. "They didn't ask. Now pay attention because I'm only gonna say this once." Sai took out his scrolls and watched closely out of the corner of his eye as Kabuto told him what he wanted to know. In all three of the animal realms, every person was doing relatively the exact same thing, holding their breaths. The three hopeful sages had all been meditating with an intense amount of focus to try and finish sage mode for a little over 10 hours, and everyone around them felt like they were about to go nuts waiting for the results. There was no way to tell if it was working until they actually activated it, leaving the spectators with nothing to do but watch. Naruto's crowd was currently next to the bank of a small pond with an altar near it, and of the crowd present, it included all of the toads Naruto knew and, not to mention, Hinata and Neji. Hinata had actually tried to use her Byakugan to see any change within his chakra network, but she had to retort because she wasn't able to get an accurate reading. Kakashi's didn't have quite as many viewers as Naruto did. Only 2 snakes were really watching, Dokibi and Kakumiai. Konan was keeping a close eye on Kakashi as well, with fear deep in her heart. In fact, she was anxious at this point. Dokibi was nervous as well, but if anyone was looking in his direction, he didn't show it. He just kept sipping on his drink to keep himself calm and watched closely. Mito had quite possibly the biggest number of viewers of the 3 groups watching her. Her 3 favorite slugs were watching along with Tsunade, Guy, and Lee, who had insisted on staying to watch her finish her training, and Kiba had come to visit as well with Akamaru so that he could congratulate his girlfriend in her moment of triumph. Soku was with the group as well, but Tsunade had a tight grip on him. The little pup really didn't understand what was going on and was struggling to get free so that he could play with his owner. All 3 realms were a tense place to be at the moment, and one by one their fates were finally going to be revealed. No one by the bank would forget the moment that it happened. A surge of power was felt coming from the altar Naruto was meditating on, and everyone's eyes widened right to him to see what had happened. Slowly, Naruto opened his eyes to reveal that there were now orange rings around his eyes with a black rectangle instead of a normal pupil. Pa screamed, "I'll be damned, the boy finally did it." Naruto called from where he was standing, "Was there ever any doubt?" Hinata ran over and tackled him in a big hug. "Naruto-kun, I can't believe it. You're an actual sage." Naruto thanked Hinata and saw that everyone else had come over to congratulate him as well. There was 1 down and 2 more left. Dokibi and the others knew exactly the instant the boy had finished his training. You could feel the rush of power that was flowing out of every pore in his body and echoing through the cave. Kakashi's body had taken on a complete change in his appearance as well. His eyes now had slits for pupils, and while his skin was still in a tannish shade, but now he had scales over his body like a snake too. He thought it was pretty badass when he took a look at his hands. "Oh yeah, I definitely could get used to this." Konan had different opinion than him. "I'm just telling you right now as a warning, if you do decide to stay that way you won't be getting any while you're like that." Kakashi pouted with a look of annoyance that still looked cute, even under his mask. "Just because I look bad? That's cold. It wasn't that, it's not how you look, I'm just not eager to feel scales on my naked body. I also refuse to be having my boyfriend stay in a relatively similar appearance as the snake pedophile." Kakashi couldn't argue with that one. Fair point. Dokibi pulled out the bottle he'd been saving. "Come here, boy, it's time for a drink." As soon as Mito's new energy was felt coursing through the temple of the slugs, everyone broke out into a massive cry of cheering. Her change had been a little different as from her surrogate brothers. Her hair had now grown much longer in length, and the skin changed completely white with what looked like blue tattoo line design all over it. Sanagu was shrieking with joy and excitement. "Yes, I knew she could do it. The slugs have got a sage baby. Woohoo!" Tsunade had to fight back tears of joy as she hugged her daughter tightly to her. "I'm so proud of you." Mito could do the only thing she could think of, hug her back. "Thanks Mom, that means a lot to me." Before long Guy and Lee were congratulating her as well, and others weren't too far behind after them. The Hidden Leaf now had 3 sages, and they couldn't wait to tell everyone the good news, and after rigorous training it was time to go home.